Assalamu alaikum. I am here to answer a question, or let's discuss a question that I get asked very often, particularly since I coach people on how to add intermittent fasting in their lives in order for them to lose weight, kickstart their healthy lifestyle journey, and to just be overall healthier. So we are going to talk today about something that is asked quite often around intermittent fasting and Islamic fasting. What is the difference, and how can you incorporate both of them if you're Muslim? So here is what we are going to try to cover today: the difference between Islamic fasting and intermittent fasting. What is the difference between how they're done, and how can you incorporate both of those things together so that if you're Muslim and you want to intermittent fast for health reasons, you'll know exactly how to get both the physical and spiritual benefits of both of them. So if you're just tuning in and you don't know who I am, my name is Mubaraka Ibrahim, and I am a health and happiness coach, and you're probably seeing this on one of my social medias. You can follow me there at Fit Muslima. I put an H at the end of Fit Muslima, but I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter under the same username. So follow me on all of those platforms because I post something different everywhere. So we know that fasting has been around since the beginning of time. So in Islam, Allah tells us in the Quran that He has prescribed fasting for us as He has prescribed it for those before us. So we've been in this game for a long time, but Western culture is kind of just catching up, right? So fasting has been all of the rage, particularly in the last 5 years. And it's been pretty popular because once famous people start fasting, then people start paying attention. But fasting is something that has been around for so long. All of the prophets did it. So not just the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the way that we continue to do it as Muslims during the month of Ramadan, but we know that we had the Prophet Dawood, or David, who fasted every other day, right? So his 1 day on, 1 day off fast that all of the researchers are looking at now has been done for thousands of years. One of the main differences, so let's talk about the differences between intermittent fasting and Islamic fasting. So Islamic fasting, what Muslims do, is considered in today's terms dry fasting. That means there's no food, there's no drink during the hours of fasting. When you're doing intermittent fasting, it can either be a dry fast or a wet fast. And of course, the main difference between an Islamic fast and an intermittent fast is the intentions behind it. The intentions behind the Islamic fast is a spiritual intention, and the intention behind intermittent fasting is health, but hopefully that health reason also has a spiritual intention behind it, that you are doing it so that you can take care of the body that Allah has granted you, and you can have it in the best of form in order to worship Him in the best of form. So let's make that first our intentions and anything we do related to our health. Now, what I would think is one of the biggest difference between the Islamic fast and the intermittent fast is the Islamic fast is done according to where the sun is in the sky. In the intermittent fast, you really predetermine how long you're going to fast, and you fast during those hours. Now, one of the things that people are always really curious about is what is the difference between dry fasting versus wet fasting. So I am going to precursor this with some interesting information. Pretty much science doesn't really know. I'm going to be completely honest with you. So here's the cool thing. Most of the research that's done on fasting is actually done with Muslims, right? So there is research that's printed inside of the Journal of Human Nutrition, and it's done following 240 Muslims during the month of Ramadan that did dry fasting during the day, right? And they showed that by the end of Ramadan, almost everyone lost weight and lowered their BMI. But then when they saw them 2 weeks later, most of them had gained the weight back, right? So here's the problem with studies about that. Number one, if you're Muslim, you know that even though we dry fast during the day, we go ham at night. There's no telling what you're eating, how much you're eating, whether or not you're eating healthy or not eating healthy, right? So it's really not a great study because it just looks at that people aren't eating during the day. There's no standard of whether or not they're exercising, whether or not they are sleeping, right? How many hours are they sleeping? It doesn't look at what types of foods they're eating when they break their fast. We have yet to have studies like that. So if you are a Muslim researcher, please put together an actual valid study that we can look at that looks at Muslims dry fasting and actually breaking their fast and eating healthy and within a certain caloric and macronutrient realm. That would be very beneficial for us. So if you know a researcher friend that does research around nutrition and around health or anything like that, go ahead and put that bug in their ear because we could really use those types of studies. When you read articles, so this is the interesting thing about the internet that I always find, and if you follow me, that I'm really about, hey, let's see what the research actually says, right? Let's not make assumptions. The problem with a lot of articles, and I've read several of them, is all of the benefits that it talks about. When you find articles that talk about the benefits of dry fasting, they're really quoting the benefits of fasting in general. There are little to no studies that compares. I've actually never seen an actual study that compared a group of people dry fasting versus a group of people who are wet fasting. So we do not know in anything that anybody says that, oh, dry fasting is better than wet fasting. I'm talking for health reasons, right? Oh, dry fasting, you lose more weight. Or dry fasting, this happens better. Dry fasting is that better. All of it is anecdotal. Like, we don't actually know for sure that if you dry fast, this is better than you actually drinking water during the day. So my recommendation is, if you can drink water, drink water. You're still going to get a reduce in inflammation. You're still going to lower your cholesterol. You're still going to lower your blood pressure. You're still going to burn more fat than when you're not intermittent fasting. So why not drink water? When you are doing intermittent fasting, that is not dry fasting, or I should say when you're doing wet fasting, that is when you're drinking. This is what I need you to understand if you're doing intermittent fasting. If you are drinking carrot juice during the day, you're not fasting. You're not getting the benefits of fasting. If you're saying, I'm doing a fast, but I am drinking my keto coffee with butter to start my day, you're not getting the benefits of the fast, right? The benefits of the fast goes with the fact that when you are fasting, your insulin level lowers. Once your insulin level lowers, then all of the magic happens. Your insulin level cannot lower if you are eating fruit, if you're eating anything really, if you're even consuming things that are going to raise your insulin. One, eating food, just about any food, even if you're eating vegetables, our body's response to eating is to raise the insulin level. That's number one. So even if you're eating ketogenic, there's still a slight raise in insulin level. Our body is very adaptive, right? Obviously, it's not the same rise that happens if you're going to eat pasta, but there's still a rise. So that's a little keto tip side note. Let me take you to the side. If you're testing your ketones, never test your ketones right after you eat, because you are going to have a rise in insulin, which is going to mean you're going to have lower ketones. The other time you should never test your ketones is actually right after you're done working out, because when you work out, your ketones actually go up. And so both of those times are not the best time to test ketones. Test someplace outside of that and make the test the same time every time you do it. Little side note. Okay, let's come back and talk about intermittent fasting. All right. When you are doing intermittent fasting, so let's just talk about intermittent fasting in general. Obviously, I am not talking about Islamic fasting, because you can't drink or eat anything while you're doing Islamic fast, Islamic dry fast. But when you're doing a regular intermittent fast, what you want to do is you want to limit your intake to green tea, black coffee, no sweetener, no cream, and water. That's it. Nothing else. Don't take in herbal teas. Don't take in anything extra. Don't put some berries inside of your water. Nothing extra. Many herbal teas, even if you don't put additional sweetener in them, they actually have natural sweeteners. So for example, licorice has a natural sweetener and it will raise your insulin level. So remember, the goal of the fast is not just to go without food. The goal of the fast is going without food lowers your insulin level. Once your insulin level lowers, your fat burning hormone, HGH, kicks up. If you're on my email list, then I wrote an entire email about HGH and why it's so important in the fat burning process. But HGH does not rise if your insulin level is high, right? They teeter like this. So every time your insulin level goes up, your HGH go down. Every time your insulin level goes down, your HGH go up. So you want to make sure that if you want the best results from your intermittent fasting for weight loss, that you are not taking in only herbal teas that you can have is a green tea. Green teas, we know for sure, does not raise insulin level. Black coffee, but even if you're having black coffee, don't exceed about 2 cups a day. So here is the caveat about coffee. And I shudder to say this because I love coffee. My problem is I love the taste of coffee. It's not even like I need it, I want it, right? So I normally have a cup of coffee a day because I just like the taste of coffee. But here's the thing about coffee is if you are drinking too much coffee, it works against your weight loss because caffeine, one, it does raise your metabolism. It's one of the very few chemicals that we know actually directly affects lipolysis. So that's why when you go into the store and you're looking for a fat burner supplement, they almost all of them have caffeine. Different levels of caffeine, but almost all of them have caffeine because we know that it's very clear in the research that caffeine actually raises your insulin level. Not your insulin level, raises your metabolism. But too much caffeine can have a domino effect on your insulin level. I'm telling you, this insulin thing, we got to get it under control because we have to know what we're eating and what we're drinking so that we can keep it where it needs to be. Because what happens with caffeine is when you get to that point where you're like jittery, not only does what happens is your cortisol level will raise. So caffeine can raise your cortisol level, and that is a trigger for insulin, right? That's another hormone that works along with insulin, right? Cortisol goes up, insulin goes up. That's what happens when you're under stress, right? So that's another reason why when you are under stress, your insulin level can rise. So if you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, then you probably are aware that when you're under a lot of stress, you have a hard time managing your diabetes. That's because stress produces cortisol. Cortisol triggers insulin to go up. So another little side note, right? So I got a lot of side notes, and I keep saying I'm gonna make this short, but I got a lot of side notes for you because I really need you to understand how food affects your body and how food affects your health, all right? So when you are fasting, oh, wait a minute, I think I had a question. Basmala, I would recommend that you not have any teas. I am not an herbalist, so I want to say that. I always try to stay in my lane. And I can't detail every single tea and exactly how it affects your metabolism, affects your insulin level. In fact, we don't even have research around every single herb. There's thousands of herbs. So for the safe side, I would recommend that you only have green tea, black coffee, and water. The other thing about the water is you can have sparkling water because that also does not raise your insulin level. Questions that I've been asked in the past is, can I put a tablespoon of, for people who add vinegar into apple cider vinegar into your water? Yes, we know apple cider vinegar actually lowers insulin level. It doesn't raise it. Can I add lemon to my water? Yes, lemon is another one that is acidic that actually we know from research that actually lowers insulin. It does not raise it. So those two things are good to add. But when it comes to herbal tea, just to be on the safe side, I recommend that you not have any other herbal tea during your fasting hours. After you're done with your fasting hours, of course, have whatever herbal tea you like, but during your fasting hours, only have those. Layla said, wa alaikum salam. I just started doing intermittent fasting routine 2 weeks ago, and I feel and see the difference. It's easy for me because as Muslims, we fast regularly. I fast 16 hours, only eat between 11 and 7 at night, and I only drink water. Alhamdulillah, intermittent fasting, really, you don't know how good you feel until you feel that good. Yes, Juan, I just answered the question about the apple cider vinegar. People have that question all the time. That's why it was first thing on my mind when I talked about it. How many days per week can we fast? I recommend my clients that follow my program to fast at least 16 hours every day, right? If your goal is for weight loss. So here is the difference. So I want to also I always like really letting you guys know where the science and the research is, because I see so many ads that are just I'm like, this is so not true. Like they're tricking people, right? So I see this ad that keeps going around about this is how many hours that you should fast based on your body type, based on your blood type. If anybody tells you that, they are making it up. There is no research study around if you have wide hips, you should fast 18 hours a day. And if you have a more pear shape and a big study, then you should fast 6 hours. There's no research study that around that at all that exists, right? And if it does, please post it in the link and tag me and I will come and read it. So that's false. That's number one. Number two, the only thing that we know in terms of fast is what is the health benefits that happens in how long you are fasting for, how long you are going without food. So for example, we know that it takes 12 hours for your glycogen to be depleted out your liver. So what does that tell us? Anything less than 12 hours is not getting the benefits of intermittent fasting. It must be a minimum of 12 hours. So if you're eating ice cream at 11 o'clock at night and then you're waking up and eating breakfast at 7 a.m., you didn't even give your digestive system time to reboot itself, right? And that's not an intermittent fast. You will see the most common thing is for people to fast 16 hours. 16 hours isn't really a magic time or sweet spot. It's just a practical spot. Most people is okay with saying, hey, I can stop eating at 8 o'clock at night and I can skip breakfast. For breakfast, I can just have some water and some coffee or some water and some tea, and then I'll eat my lunch. When most people want to intermittent fast, that tends to be the best. I guess it is a sweet spot. It's a practical sweet spot, right? But the other thing that we know is when we look at how fasting affects the way that we burn fat, right? So they've actually done studies around what happens in the fat burning process. So not looking at the other processes, what happens in the fat burning process based on the amount of hours that people fast. And they did this research study looking at 3 days, a 72-hour fast, right? And what they found was there was a huge jump between hours 18 and 20. So one of the things, so inside of my Burn Belly Fat Challenge, I challenge the women that not every day, but at least 2 days a week, try to push your fast to 20 hours. Because this is what happens. When you're fasting, you got that 12 hours, you got that 16 hours, you're going down, you're going up slightly. When you hit hour 18, so if you say you're going up slightly, your body's burning more fat, it's burning more fat. At hour 18, it does this. It goes up to 20, right? And then hour 20, it slows back down. And then we know that as the fast continue, hour 24, hour 32, the fat burning actually slows down and eventually levels off. So that means that your metabolism isn't getting that much faster if you're trying to fast for a whole week. It's not, the fat burning is going to level off. So for fat burning purposes. Now there's different protocol of fasting. So that research study specifically looked at fat burning. There's research studies that looks at the way the body processes lipids, like where is the amount of fast for people who want to reduce their cholesterol. There's research studies that looks at, what happens with blood pressure. It looks at different health indicators along, but for our purposes, we're specifically talking about fat loss, right? The other thing that I always like to say, and I'm going to conclude with this, is there is a difference between intermittent fasting and extended fasting. So intermittent fasting, and researchers are really trying to get this knowledge out there so people can understand intermittent fasting, is when your fast is 24 hours or less. When you're fasting more than 24 hours, then that is called extended fast. Some people can fast for 3 days. Some people fast for 5 days. Some people fast for 7 days, right? So meaning no food during this time. Just the same way you would do in your 16 hours, you do it for 3 days. I personally have not fasted more than 3 days because that is really where the health benefits begin to level off. Hasn't been shown any additional benefits for someone who fasts for 7 days. So we know that after 3 days, the whole detox process of replacing your cells and completely replacing your immune system happens after day 3. But what we also know, and this is really important because I see this a lot, if your goal is weight loss, you do not want to do a 10-day fast. You do not want to do a 30-day fast. Now, for some people, it sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people out there on the internet that's doing this. The reason why you don't want to do it, will you lose weight? Why, of course you're going to lose weight because you're starving yourself. But besides that, what we do know is people who go an extended period of time, meaning you're going more than 10 days, right, without enough nutrients, you can permanently damage your metabolism. We don't have a lot of research around this. It's called the refeed process, like what happens when you stop feeding and you refeed yourself after a fast. But the few research studies that we do have about it is pretty thorough and pretty clear. One of the ones that stands out, which is often referenced, is they did a research study with the people who were on The Biggest Loser. And I believe they looked at about 80 of them. And they found that they went an extended time. Now, they weren't doing intermittent fasting. They just was eating a super low calorie diet, right? So you got somebody that's like 400 pounds and they're eating 1,100 calories for a year, right? Or for 6 months. So that is called extreme calorie reduction, right? Because that's really not enough to sustain them. But what they have found when they looked at them is that they permanently damaged their metabolism. Their metabolism was slower afterwards. So this is another reason why most of the people who are on The Biggest Loser have actually gained their weight back and more. Because when you are doing extended fast, you're trying to go 10 days without food, you are at risk of damaging your metabolism. What does that mean? That means Prior to your fast, your metabolism may have required 1,500 calories a day, right? 1,500 calories a day to maintain your weight. Once your metabolism is damaged, then it may bring it down to 1,200 calories a day. So whereas before you tried your extended fast, you could eat 1,500 calories before you started gaining weight. But now, if you eat anything over 1,200, you're going to start gaining weight, right? And our goal is actually to boost our metabolism, not to slow it down. So your weight loss will be temporary and you will eventually gain the weight back. So we don't want that. We want you to lose the weight and we want you to keep it off because that's the way you stay healthy. I'm going to answer just one or two more questions and then I'm going to go make maghrib, okay? Do you think that fasting can help someone with anxiety? So fasting has a lot of benefits, have been shown to actually help with depression and anxiety. There are research studies around it, and it has to do with the hormonal shift that happens when you're fasting. I would recommend that you go to the National Health NHI website and put in intermittent fasting. Like these research studies are really easy to research, like to actually go look in. Just put in intermittent fasting, anxiety research into Google, and it will tell you all of the information that you need to know. All right. One more question. Do I have another question? And wa alaikum salam, Samira from Brazil. Oh, thank you, Sana. My daughter's middle name is Sana. I love that name. Her name is Selwa Sana Abdus Sabor. One more. Basmala said, how many meals can I eat while doing intermittent fasting to lose weight? And how long can it take to lose 80 pounds? And how can I contact you? So, first of all, when you are doing intermittent fasting, it is not a meal count. It is to eat within a timed window, right? So it doesn't matter if you decide, okay, I'm going to fast for 16 hours a day and I'm going to eat in an 8-hour window. It really doesn't matter how many meals that you're eating. Some people eat one huge meal and they're great. And other people want to eat 2 or 3 meals in that time. So it really is based on you eating the types of food that's going to get you the results that you want, right? So I don't want you to think of meal. I really try to get out the idea of we have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? We don't have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You should eat when you're hungry. You should eat the nutrients that you need to achieve your goals in terms of performance, in terms of sports, if you're doing that, and in terms of your health goal. How long can it take to lose 80 pounds? I don't know. It depends. So here's the interesting thing about weight loss. When you do a well-structured program, people who need to lose more weight actually lose weight quicker, right? If they stick to the program. If I put together a program and I have someone who is 180 pounds and they follow that program, and somebody that's 280 pounds and they both follow the exact program, the person who's 280 pounds is actually going to lose more weight than the person who is 180 pounds. Just simply because they have more weight to lose, and the way the program is structured, they're both going to lose. So this is another reason why I actually just had this conversation inside of my coaching group today. When I do the Burn Belly Fat Challenge, I actually go by percentage of weight loss, because people who are bigger are always going to lose more weight by pound, but depending on the consistency, the percentage of your overall body weight may even out with somebody who is less weight than you. And if you are interested in coaching or you're interested in any of my programs, you can just send me a DM here on this page and I will send you the link. All right. Fatima says, I feel fine during my fast, but cannot eat much after. Is it okay? So this is going to be the last question because I do have to go pray. So it's Maghrib here, so I have to go pray. But And that was a way of me actually relegating my time, because I can get on here and we can talk for hours and hours, because you know I got so much stuff to tell you guys, but I need to, I promised myself that I would keep these short. So because I got to tell you something tomorrow, right? Can't tell you everything in one day. So, so when you say that you can't eat that much, the thing that I think about is, whatever you're eating, you make sure it is chocked with nutrients. That means you need to eat your veggies, you need to eat your leafy greens, you need to make sure you're having your protein, you need to make sure you're having your fat. Don't do intermittent fasting and be like, oh, I'm just going to have a bowl of cereal because I'm not hungry. Because eventually that is going to actually backfire on you. Because remember, fasting is intentionally going without food. Starvation is when you lack nutrients that your body needs, okay? So that's a huge difference between the two. I don't want you to eventually lack the nutrients that you need. So make sure that when you're eating nutrient-dense food, that you're getting it in, all of the nutrients that you need, so that you can have the energy and all of the health benefits of fasting. Because it doesn't make sense for you to get some health benefits of fasting, but then you lose the health benefits of the nutrients because you're not getting enough vitamin K or E or iron or all the other stuff. So we want both of them to come together so that you can be happier and healthier. All right. So if you thought that this was helpful, I want you to do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to my lives, share this video, invite your friends to come and participate in the daily lives that I'm going to be doing. I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Assalamu alaikum.